Hello everyone, welcome to the first video in this A-Level Finesse chemistry pack. Now, we're going to be starting off with the atomic structure. The way these videos will be structured will be easy to follow through, but feel free to pause, rewind, watch back the videos if it doesn't make sense the first time round. So let's start with the atom. Now, most of you should already know through GCSE what an atom is, but in A-Level we'll go slightly into more depth. You should know that atom is made up of three components: proton, neutron and electron. So that electron, this red one in the nucleus is a proton, and this grey one is the neutron. You should also know the relative charges associated with these particles. On this table on the right, you can see the proton, where it's found, its position is in the nucleus, the neutron is found in the nucleus, and the electrons are found in orbitals. Now, I'm going to fill in the table. So, the mass of a proton is 1, the mass of a neutron is 1, and the mass of an electron is 1 over 1840. The charges of a proton is +1, neutron has no charge, and an electron is a -1 charge. In GCSE, you probably learned that the atom contains electrons which orbit the nucleus spherically. Now, this is correct to an extent. However, electrons don't orbit spherically, but are found in electron clouds around the atom. More specifically, they are in subshells, S, P, D, and F. So, electrons are found in subshells, S, P, D, F. Now, these subshells contain orbitals, which in turn contain electrons. You don't need to know the shape of the subshells, but for insight, an S subshell is spherical, so something like that, and a P subshell is a dumbbell shape, something like that. Electrons are also arranged in something known as energy levels, for example 1, 2, 3, and 4, with energy level 1 being closest to the nucleus. So a 1 closest to nucleus. Each energy level contains subshells. And as we know, subshells contain orbitals which contain electrons. Expanding on this topic of orbitals, any orbital can hold a maximum of 2 electrons. However, each subshell has differing amounts of orbitals. So for example, an S subshell holds 1 orbital. A P subshell holds 3 orbitals. A D subshell holds 5 orbitals. And an F subshell holds 7 orbitals. Now, with this in mind, you can find out how many electrons can be present in a subshell. S will be able to hold 2 electrons. Why is this? Because any orbital can hold a maximum of 2 electrons, and if a S holds 1 orbital, then it can hold 2 electrons. A P should be able to hold 2 times 3, so 6 electrons. A D can hold 5 times 2, so 10 electrons. And an F can hold 7 times 2, so 14 electrons. Now we're going to move on to electronic structure. So you need to know that there are 3 components to writing electronic structure. Energy level, subshell, and number of electrons in that subshell. Let's do an example and you should be able to follow through. So let's look at oxygen. So oxygen has 8 electrons. Now I'm going to give you a formula which you can use to determine how many electrons can fit into an energy level. So the formula I'm going to give you is 2n squared, where n is the energy level. For example, the first energy level, as we all know, can only hold a maximum of 2 electrons. Using the formula, we can see this is satisfied, because 2 times 1 squared equals 2. Now, the second energy level can hold 2 times 2 squared, which is 8. Pause the video and find out how many the third energy level can hold. You should have gotten 18. 2 times 3 squared. This is how many electrons can be present in an energy level. Now let's look at oxygen again. So oxygen has 8 electrons. Now how would we write this in electronic structure? So we start with the first energy level. So the first energy level is 1. Then we start with the subshell. So electrons always start filling from, electrons fill from S through to F. So they start from S and they finish with F. And then in the middle is P and D. So so oxygen would start off as 1s, and how many electrons can the S hold? 2. So that is the first energy level complete. Now moving on to the second energy level, we go with 2. And when we start a new energy level, the electrons always start filling from the S orbital first. So for now, it should be 2 and then S, 2. So now we figured out where 4 of the electrons are. Now we need to figure out where the remaining 4. So we know that the second energy level can hold 8 electrons. We already have 2. So we have a remainder of 6 that we can have a maximum of 6 in that energy level left. We only need to fill 4 in the second energy level. So we start 2p, because after S comes the P subshell, and our remainder is 4. Now, these two top numbers should equal or be less than the max that the energy level can hold. So, to summarize then, what is an electron? Electrons are found in subshells S, P, D, and F. These contain orbitals, which in turn contain electrons. This is an S subshell, this is a P subshell. Electrons are arranged in energy levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And obviously further atoms have, more, it goes up to 5, 6, 7. These energy levels contain subshells, which contain orbitals, which contain electrons. An orbital can hold a maximum of 2 electrons. Each subshell has different amount of orbitals. An S holds 1, a P holds 3, D 5, and F 7. This is something you're just going to have to memorize. How many electrons can each subshell hold? Well, simple maths. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10. 7 times 2 is 14. Electronic structure. So electrons fill from S, then P, then D, then F. So 3 components to write in electronic structure: energy level, subshell, the number of electrons in that subshell. Remember this formula, 2n squared, to determine how many electrons can fit into energy and any energy level. And this is how you would write the electronic structure for oxygen. So 1s2, and that's the first energy level done. 2s2, 2p4. And as you can see, 2 add 4 equals 8. So that's the first video done. Hopefully you found that insightful. Tune in for the next video. Thank you.